Hi guys, welcome to SA stands for South Africa. Duh. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm gonna bring you the best news concerning South Africa in general. I'm a South African by nature. Of course, by nature. But anyway, let's get down to it. Let's get down to the topic of the day, which is why does South Africa have a high youth unemployment rate? Suspect number one, apartheid. What is apartheid? In simple terms, it means to separate or setting apart. To separate what exactly? Let's dive in deeper. Apartheid was a system of institutionalized racial segregation that existed in South Africa and Southwest Africa, known as Namibia now. From 1948 to early 1990s, apartheid was characterized by an authoritarian political culture based on Buskap, which means bossship or bosshood, which ensured that South Africa was dominated politically, socially, and economically by the nation's minority, which is the white population. In this minoritarian system, there was social stratification where white citizens had the highest status, followed by Indians, coloreds, then black Africans. The economic legacy and social effects of apartheid continue to the present day, particularly inequality. Okay, now let's dive into why apartheid had an effect on the education system. The education system back in apartheid created educational inequalities through overt racist policies. The Bantu Education Act of 1952 ensured that black people receive an education that would limit educational potential and remain in the working class. This policy directly affected the content of learning to further racial inequalities by preventing access to further education. In addition to content, apartheid legislation affected the educational potential of students. School was compulsory for whites from age 7 to 16, for Asians and coloreds from 7 to 15, and for blacks from age 7 to 13. Yeah. Clearly, the less education students received, the fewer choices they had in the working world and in accessing more education. The education system worked during the apartheid era for the minority. The white minority had opportunities to further their education and find job opportunities under the same system. Most of the white minority had the economic power in their hands. Meanwhile, no person of color had that opportunity and thus had to rely on the unfair system to receive basic and low-income work. The point I'm making is, it was a guarantee that when a white person finished tertiary education, he or she would be employed or take up a role in the family business. Access to education is sort of accessible nowadays. However, there's an influx of students and qualified individuals who are still unemployed due to the fact that the economic power still lies in the hands of white people. According to government statistics, control of the economy remains rigidly racialized in favor of the 7.8% of the population who are white, to the exclusion of the 80.8% who are black African. The annual data released by the BBEEC in July reveals that black ownership in reporting companies across the economy was just 29% in 2019, compared to 25% in 2018 and 32% in 2016. No single sector of the economy has more than 50% black ownership in large entities. For example, finance only has 25%, agriculture only has 12%, construction only has 48%, property only has 42%, ICT only has 36%. And that's based on the African Business Stats in 2020. All of this is a testament that white people have lapped black people in the marathon, and black people don't even stand a chance to win the race because it started a long time ago for the white minority, and people of color are playing catch up. Apartheid gave the minority a head start into dominating the economy and land infrastructure, and all people of color got was freedom. Freedom to starve, freedom to be enslaved by this very same system they're trying to escape from. Democracy does not amount to equality, just the concept of window shopping. The minority have opened up the mall only for the majority to look at the stores they can't afford. I'm not even going to touch base on how the minority benefited from the state during apartheid in terms of businesses that are worth millions of rands today, and how they manipulated and exploited black people in terms of entertainment and arts. That would be a tad bit controversial, so let's cover suspect 2. Okay guys, let's move on to suspect 2, which is a corrupt government. I have a question. Are politicians all over the world corrupt? It's a very spicy topic with a dash of controversy. I like it. But if politicians weren't as corrupt, there wouldn't be a corruption perception index, which rates a country's corruption on a scale from 100, which is very clean, to 0, which is highly corrupt. South Africa ranks at 41 based on the 2023 stats. So if that was a pass mark, then I guess South Africa barely just made it, because South Africa's pass mark is 40, right? But it's a shocking stat, especially when you see how rampant the corruption is in South Africa. It should be added as like the 12th official language at this point. Politicians are at the center of this entire corruption. They are more scandalous than soccer players and celebrities. They keep making newspaper companies very happy because they can guarantee that one politician will drop the ball and they would be put on a headline. They are so corrupt and it's so oblivious to this corruption, you would swear that you aren't living in the same planet as them. They have milked resources that could have benefited the youth from unemployment. Okay, so now let's look at the corrupt government versus apartheid. The apartheid government indeed catered for the minority, but they still catered for the majority. I guess it's the benefits of having an umbrella of a single race than different umbrellas under one race. So basically, under the white race, you only had like Afrikaners and English people, whereas with Africans we have Xhosas, we have Zulus, we have Sothos, you see. So different umbrellas under still the same race, but our umbrellas are a lot more than like white people. So what I'm basically saying is the correlation between the apartheid government and being corrupt is there. I mean, they did steal from the majority to benefit the minority. However, they didn't squander the money, and they still provided even the lowest tier quality of service to people of color, which included running water and low-cost housing. The ruling political party struggles to even do that. So imagine during the apartheid government and a white person looked at the conditions of a black person and told another fellow white person that he or she wouldn't do this to his or own sworn enemy. The ruling party is doing this to their own sworn friends. At least the apartheid system had a military program that was compulsory for the youth after they completed their schooling or were at the age of 18. This in turn gave them combat training. Some of them went to aviation, some of them did mechanical engineering to fix military vehicles, some did avionics to do aircraft maintenance, etc. This gave them skills to work in different fields. In fact, even today you still find remnants of people who underwent their training in aviation, which is a field in South Africa that struggles to prove that people of color are competent enough to run this industry. Stats show that 83% are white pilots across all pilot classes, including balloon, glider, private and commercial. And only 12% are Africans and coloreds, and the rest of the 3% are Indians. Due to the rampant corruption of the ruling party, there aren't any programs that can guarantee the future of the youth in terms of employment. Service delivery in South Africa is bad. Surely the government could have implemented a program for the youth that trains them to sort out this crisis. And there isn't a government or municipal entity that is without complaints in South Africa. From the Department of Home Affairs to Ekurhuleni municipality to traffic departments, and they all have similar problems, from staff shortages, computer or system malfunctions, lack of information, the list goes on. The ruling party and government is failing the youth. And is it a possible fact on why there's a high youth unemployment rate? Okay guys, I'm going to be controversial with this one. Suspect number 3, I believe it's culture. I believe the reason why a lot of youth are unemployed is because of culture. Do the youth still value culture? Or are we lost pursuing cultures that don't represent who we are and where we come from? South Africa has a diverse amount of culture, languages and traditions that are unique and beautiful. Knowing where you come from is the foundation of strength. It's like a blanket you can lay your family on, build upon it, ride on it, so that the future generation knows what the previous generation was like, and that blanket gets passed on from generation to generation. So, have we the youth lost that blanket? Did we throw it away and abandon it? Are we embarrassed of it? There's no doubt that culture and tradition have ancient views, or culture and tradition rule with a tight fist, and it has misogynistic views which might hamper or have an impact on society today. But in my opinion, customs are customs. Culture is culture. You can't change certain things because you're conforming to the rules and laws of another culture that deems your culture and tradition barbaric or backwards. No other culture has been forced to adapt or change to general society standards. An example of this are the Muslim community. Dubai is one of the richest cities in the world, but the Muslim tradition is enforced there and not forced to adapt or change, no matter how severe it might be, because it's who the people who reside there are, and they cannot change who they are, and they represent their identity to their world, so that their culture won't die and the future generation won't be swayed away and get lost. If the youth in South Africa stick to their roots, it would present even an opportunity for the youth to be explorers. They can run museums. They can create fashion with a traditional twist. They can create jewelry only found in South Africa. They can write history books. So much more. Are the youth sleeping with the enemy? Are the youth swaying towards being whiter and adopt white values? An example of this is a trend that involves skin lightening and Brazilian hairpieces that resemble the look of softer and silkier hair. The trend in South Africa for living lavishly or having a luxurious life as a black person is having a lighter skin tone, speaking fluent English, and living in a predominantly white neighborhood. I'm worried that this can be a propaganda tool that can be used to lure the youth into wanting a white life, because white is superior. You need to be white or lighter to acquire a job, and that can add pressure to the youth. Suspect number 4, the groovist lifestyle. Because we like grooving, we like grooving, we like clubbing, man, we like tearing ish up. Okay. Is constant clubbing and partying, overindulgence of alcohol and tobacco the reason why the youth are unemployed? No doubt, the nightlife in South Africa is well regarded due to the huge success of the music genre called Amapiano. I believe the groovist lifestyle is a cause after effect of unemployment, so the youth feel compelled to engage in constant clubbing, to engage with fellow youth so that they can share the same hardships, the same struggles, and it's a pastime that seems fun. But I guess, let me know, you guys, Can the groovish lifestyle be the demise of the youth? You let me know. Suspect number 5, another controversial topic: immigrants. South Africa has a huge immigration issue that has been going on for years. Many immigrants from most neighboring countries come to South Africa for greener pastures, and the government failed to protect its citizens from this issue, leading to competition between immigrants who are willing to work well below minimum wage. And the advantage is that the currency value in South Africa is higher than most neighboring countries, so cost of living is low in their respective countries than the country they immigrated to. Usually immigrants work without permits, and they don't follow any labor law, legislation or regulation, which the citizens are subjected to. For example, in order for a citizen in South Africa to open a business, it requires a plethora of documents and costs, including things such as like a VAT registration, proof of a business account, a COID registration, company registration, a SARS representative update, business plan, a CIPC company registration, an income tax number, UIF registration, BEE certificates, etc. Meanwhile, for an immigrant, it's just capital and a rental space. And immigrants aren't subjected to tax since they aren't permanent residents. So the money they make does not go to tax. It seems like a good deal for immigrants. However, that is having a huge impact on why the youth are unemployed. It's been estimated that the spaza shop industry, aka the informal convenience shop industry, is worth 178 billion rands. Many of those shops are owned by immigrants. That number alone could have eradicated youth unemployment by a significant margin. And that's just one industry. I haven't even accounted for the hair salon business, the street vendor market, etc. Let's discuss immigrants in the labor market. Immigrants are likely to be higher in the labor market than native-born population because South Africans have trade unions that represent workers in case of unfair treatment, pay, or overall working conditions. Trade unions tend to make things a little bit difficult for companies, businesses, and because South Africans have that option, it makes immigrants the ideal candidate because immigrants have a tolerance level that is very high than that of South Africans due to their background and need for providing for their families in their respective countries, and that is why usually they are exploited. Let's look at the difference in skill levels between the youth and immigrants. Immigrants usually have skills that they have adopted from their respective countries, such as working with their hands, example, fixing cars, doing hair, becoming shopkeepers, doing bookkeeping, welding, bricklaying, etc. Assuming that some of these skills were acquired from a technical school or college, already they had an advantage as opposed to locals. The education model in South Africa simply promised you a possibility of employment after matric. I don't know how many years ago that was, aka grade 12 or after you finish school. Then due to as things changed, as time went on, you had to finish school and then go to college or university, then you receive employment. And then now you have to deal with the competition of immigrants that are coming from other countries as well with like top certificates, and you spend years in university as well, you see. Yeah. So let's assume maybe these immigrants, okay, let me not just fucking say these immigrants. Let's just say that immigrants were already taught skills in high school, in their high school period, and they came with a massive advantage because that model is not really popular here in South Africa, where you find most young people going to technical colleges, because the system or the government fooled us that you had to complete matric, and then that's where your life started to make sense, which is why it's a big deal in South Africa for you to have a matric certificate. But it's useless nowadays, it's useless. But okay, let's move on. Let's look at the repercussions of youth unemployment. Repercussions could involve the high crime rate, because when the youth are staying, they are frustrated about their way of living. They're gonna take it upon themselves to commit crime. And when you are young, all you want is money, all you want is independence. So obviously maybe you might dwell into the thoughts of like, let me rob someone, or let me take this, or whatever. Okay, but asikoda, high crime rates. And then another point could be possibilities of riots similar to the 2021 unrest, when like the youth have reached a threshold where they are like pissed off and they want jobs immediately, by fire, by force. That could happen. Another impact it could have an impact on our economy, by having a low GDP rate where people don't work, the economy suffers, you see. And then we could have instances of events like Latwizi, where social media could be used to weaponize the youth to a false cause. It could be weaponized. Someone could create false news, and the youth, due to unemployment, they would mobilize that area and cause destruction, or be used as a weapon. For example, if someone maybe came up with like a fake post to say, okay, the government wants the youth to go to FNB Stadium, they are promised jobs and food and all of that. That could be used as a weapon, because the youth are desperate to get anything at this point. So that could be used as a tool of destruction. Yeah. And another problem that we're gonna have is the drug pandemic. Already we have a drug pandemic involving crystal meth and nyaupi, and the drug pandemic could be similar to the codeine pandemic in Zimbabwe, where like most of the youth in Zimbabwe, they are drinking codeine and getting high all day, causing problems to their communities, doing crime, etc., etc. In case no one knows what nyaupe is, it's similar to fentanyl for my audience in another country, in America, I guess. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. Leave a like and comment, subscribe, and catch me next time on South Africa Stands for South Africa. Da.